بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا قيل لهم اتبعوا ما أنزل الله قالوا بل نتبع ما ألقينا عليه آباءنا أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعقلون شيئا ولا يهتدون. This is chapter 2 called Al-Baqarah, or the cow of the Holy Quran, and I recited verse 170. And when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, no, we follow that wherein we found our fathers. even though their fathers had no sense at all, nor did they follow the right course. The next one is chapter 6, verse 91. Verse 92. وَمَا قَدَرُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ إِذْ قَالُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَى بَشَرٍ مِّن شَيْءٍ قُلْ مَنْ أَنزَلَ الْكِتَابَ الَّذِي جَاءَ به موسى نورا وهدى للناس تجعلونه قراطيس تبدونها وتخفون كثيرا وعلمتم ما لم تعلموا أنتم ولا آباؤكم قل الله ثم ذرهم في خوضهم يلعبون. And they honor not Allah with the honor due to Him. When they say Allah has not revealed anything to a mortal, say who revealed the book which Moses brought, a light and a guidance to men. You make it into scattered paper, which you show and conceal much. And you are taught that which neither you nor your fathers knew. Say Allah, then leave them sporting in their ivory tower. And the last one is chapter 31, verse 21. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ يَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى عَذَابِ السَّعِيرِ. And when it is said to them, follow that which Allah has revealed, they say, no, we follow that wherein we found our fathers. What? Though the devil calls them to the chastisement of the burning fire. We have been discussing slavery, and we talked about it in general terms last Friday. And I explained to you that this topic will probably take 2, 3, 4 weeks, because there is many types of slavery. And I explained that you have intellectual slavery and political slavery and physical slavery and so on. And today, what I want to do is talk about intellectual, mental, social, psychological slavery, which means that we cannot think freely, because we have to do, say things that the society or our elders or some great men of the past have said. This has a great impact This has a great impact on development of human society and knowledge. And there are many examples of it. For example, when the printing press was invented, its German inventor first took it to the Muslims because he was told that Muslims are a people who love knowledge and technology and education and anything that makes gaining that education they will support. And so he went to Constantinople, now called Istanbul, and he somehow managed to get access to the Khalifa. And he showed them this machine. And he said, look, you have scribes who sit there and write out the Holy Quran. And it takes months and months and months. So he said he had one page written, and then he put it through the machine, and another page came out in a few seconds. And then he turned the handle again, add another page, and he turned the handle again, add another page, and he turned the handle again, add another page. And he said, look, how easy it will be for you to disseminate the knowledge of Islam and Quran to the whole world if you do this. And what did they say? Let me recite to you chapter 31, verse 21. And when it is said to them, follow that which Allah has revealed, they say, no, 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 no. We will do what our fathers. This is exactly the reply the ulama gave to the Khalifa when he asked him, so many hundreds of years, has anyone used a machine to print the Holy Quran? No, no, no. It can only be written by hand. The Holy Prophet didn't do it. He had the Holy Quran written by hand. So how can we dare to do something that wasn't done by him? But then, you see, it puzzles me, because if I was the Khalifa at the time, I would have turned around and said, but the Holy Prophet used to use bow and arrow and a sword and spears and javelins to fight battles. I have cannon. Why don't you stop me from using the cannon? The Holy Prophet never did this. Sahaba Kram Razilullah Ta'ala Anhum didn't do it. So why am I allowed to use cannon? Why am I allowed to use this machine to kill people, but I'm not allowed to use that machine to disseminate the knowledge of Islam to the world? But the point is, you would say, well, maybe this is just about the revelation from Allah. But I would suggest to you that inventions are a revelation from Allah. God guides the man, the mind of a man to something. People say coronavirus has come from Allah and it has spread, and they're looking for a vaccine. So if you find a vaccine, does it mean to say that you have the ability to counter God's will? Does it mean that? The whole world is looking for a vaccine. The Christians, who we say most Muslim sects say are unclean, and from whose hand we don't take a cup of tea, will be using the vaccine they've invented, and we eat that. That will be okay. So that's another. You see, that is a form of slavery. That Khalifa was a slave to those ulama. They were slaves to their perhaps economic interest or their backward thinking. They weren't free to think. And can you see how much damage that did to the world of Islam? This mental slavery, this social slavery, this psychological slavery, this intellectual slavery. Muslims were left behind 200 or 300 years. Europe was left behind Europe by 200 or 300 years. And there are many other examples. Muslims aren't the only ones. At one stage, there were two theories of light. One was that light consists of particles, and those particles travel in a straight line. And the person who favored that theory was Sir Isaac Newton. And then there was this unknown, I don't remember his nationality, scientist called Huygens. And he said, no, that's not right. Light is waves. He likened it to like throwing a stone in a pond and you see waves spreading. He said light spreads like that. It's not straight waves. But Newton had greater authority. He was more well known. This poor guy was just a poor physicist in some small university. So for hundreds of years, people followed Newton and ignored Huygens. The development of physics was left behind by about, I don't know, a couple of hundred years. Because people said, one prominent person has said this, we must follow that. And we do this. This is intellectual slavery. Just that, and people say this, my Maulana has said this. Imam so-and-so said this 500 years ago, 700 years ago. This was exactly the same thing. The development of physics was retarded by a couple of hundred years. Every kind of slavery is dangerous and detrimental to human development. Among many Muslims, when someone dies, after 40 days, well, actually they have something called Quds, when people sit around and recite Kullu Wallah and Kullu bin Nas and so on and so forth, and it has to be done 125,000 times and all this kind of thing. And after 40 days, everyone gathers round and there's a recitation of the Holy Quran and etc. Why? What? And if I don't do it, I know there is no sign of it in the Holy Quran. I know it's not the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. I know it's nowhere in the Hadith. But if I don't do it, people will say, well, look, he didn't love his father or mother or whoever has passed away enough to spend a few quid on basically a party. They're all having a big party, which is preceded by the recitation of the Holy Quran. And then you have the strange thing of the Maulana saying, quick, how many Qurans have we finished? I'm now going to transfer the blessings of this recitation of all of you to this person. No one says. When did God give you the authority to do this? Only God can bless someone. Only God can punish someone. Who are you? Oh, 73 Qurans were finished. Oh, Allah give the blessing of this 73 Qurans to the deceased. The list is a long one. Islam is against waste. Islam is against waste. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, he started Eid Miladun Nabi, but he said it will be of this form. People will collect objections against the person of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam all through the year, and then, in fact, before many people used to commemorate the Holy Prophet's death rather than his birth. And it was Hazrat Sahib who started this commemoration of the Holy Prophet's birth. But his idea was that all year you collect objections to Islam that you couldn't answer, and you collect your answers to the objections that you could answer, and you meet as a group on the day of the Holy Prophet's birth, and then you exchange information. You say to your person sitting next to you, a Hindu asked me this question, I couldn't answer it. Have you any ideas? Or someone raised this objection against Islam or the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is the answer I give. And others would learn from that. And it will help them propagate Islam. But what has it become now? What has it become now? In countries where people can barely afford to eat, the governments that can barely meet their own expenditure, in countries where there's such a shortage of the resources of gas and electricity and so on, that factories and offices and shops have to be shut down because there is no electricity to light up the shop or run the factory's machine. Millions, tens of millions of rupees worth of electricity and gas is used to light up bulbs and so on, because people say we are commemorating, we are rejoicing the birth of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The person who was so simple that when he died, there wasn't a spare piece of cloth in his house in which to bury him. Someone asked Golda Meir, how did you learn, an ex-Prime Minister of Israel, how did you learn to rule your country? Who taught you? And you know what she said? Muhammad. He said, I studied his life. When he died, they found in his house one sword and one shield and nothing else. But we've learned nothing. Golda Meir didn't go around lighting up Tel Aviv or well, yes, it was Tel Aviv at the time, the capital of Israel. She did something practical. She took the life of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and put its lessons into running the country. But what do? We just sing hymns and light up buildings, and then we go home and we lie and cheat and take bribes to do our duty for which the government is paying us. Is this Eid Miladun Nabi? Is this the purpose of Eid Miladun Nabi? But you try opposing it, and people will kill you. Why? Because it's been done for 50 years, 60 years. And God says, you just slavishly follow your parents and your forefathers, although they didn't know anything. And there's another example. There's a verse in the Holy Quran about ants talking. It's about Solomon's army coming and ants are saying to each other, let's get out of the way. And at that time, when the Holy Quran was translated into other languages first, people didn't know what to make of that. And people interpreted it in different ways. For example, Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ali Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh, he interpreted it to say that actually ants was also a name of a tribe of short people. And they weren't very strong. And Hazrat Suleiman, Salam's army was very strong. So they were human beings. They weren't the ants we see crawling across the floor. So this tribe said, we can't face Solomon, let's get out of the way. And then the world moved on. And I saw an article somewhere about, and it was a research paper from some university, and later on one of our younger members actually also made a speech about this at Darussalam. And that it said that ants do talk to each other. How? The ant at the front leaves a chemical. The ant behind sniffs that chemical, and it then knows whether it's safe to carry on or not. And by leaving different types of chemical, they communicated with each other. But then the research went on, and I think I wrote an article on this or something. But then the research went on. And someone said, why do ants have antennas? Let's check them. And they then did some experiments by removing the ants' antennas, etc., etc. And they found that the ants without antennas were isolated in the community. But those with antennas were going and touching other ants and so on, and they seemed to be talking and communicating. So science has now proven that ants communicate in two ways. One, by leaving chemicals behind them, and secondly, by actually talking to each other, by producing sound. That's what they use those antennas for. And I mentioned this to someone who's not a member of our Jamaat. I said, look, isn't this wonderful that this was mentioned in the Holy Quran 1500 years ago, and science has now proven that ants talk to each other. And he listened to me attentively. And then he said, what you say is very interesting, but the person who created our Jamaat said that the word for ants used here was also the name of a tribe, and that his saying is good enough for me. Science is very interesting, but I'm not going to sort of change my views or rethink the thing. What can you do? What can you do? It's like you slap someone in the face and he laughs and he says, you've got such a funny sense of humor. Look, you've just broken two of my teeth. How funny was that? Science is telling you ants talk to each other. And he's saying, no. The person who created our Jamaat said, he wasn't a Lahori Ahmadi. I hasten to add. Another Jamaat. So how can these people make progress? How are they going to make progress? In law and in forensics, there is a very simple sentence. Follow the evidence. You go where the evidence takes you. You don't sort of, first of all, make up your mind and then start to fit the evidence case. But the point I'm making is that all such people, whether it was the Khalifa, from the Khalifa who refused to use printing press, because Maulana said, well, our fathers and forefathers never used a printing press, to this man who a few years ago, not a long time ago, said, the leader of my Jamaat said, this verse of the Holy Quran means this, although the science you're quoting proves otherwise, proves that the leader of my Jamaat was wrong, I'm not going to accept. And this is what God says. When it is said to them, follow that which God has revealed. God revealed that ants talk to each other. And they say, no. It's good enough for me. Quran says, don't worship this stone, but my father used to do it. And his father used to do it. The Quran says, don't worship this tree, but no. This mental slavery, this intellectual slavery, this social slavery keeps nations back. They don't develop. And really, it's not too strong to say that this mental slavery actually destroys them. And they become like beggars. They become like beggars. They have to beg other people for knowledge and technology and everything. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'ani al-azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikri allati qulna dawala ibadu karimun malikun barrun. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم حضر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعل عباد الله رحمة الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم واذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح إقامة الصلاة إقامة الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم
مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أستغفر الله. اللهم ربنا This is the end of our Friday service. I hope you found it useful. We usually have reflections on the Holy Quran at 7 p.m. on Fridays, but reflections on the Holy Quran will only take place from Monday to Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time. Unfortunately, we couldn't broadcast yesterday because although we tried, there were difficulties and the system kept on crashing. So we apologize for that and we repeat that lesson on Monday, inshallah. There are no broadcasts on Saturday. On Sunday, we'll have the call of the Messiah at 9 o'clock UK time and the lessons in Islam at 1300 p.m. And I'm glad that our brother Abdullah Rahim from Florida, he is having difficulties, and through your prayers, God has solved his difficulties, and he made me to say that he will now be taking a more active part in the dawah to propagate Islam and bring more people into the Islam. So pray for his success as well, and for God to solve his other difficulties. Until we meet again, I pray that Allah keeps all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and